to the Crochet Tutor. Today we're going to make these beautiful crocheted snowflakes. I'm doing mine as coasters, but they could also be set up as beautiful Christmas ornaments. Super easy to make, and they work up fast, so they can be done for last minute Christmas gifts. Okay, so we're going to start with a magic ring. So on your two fingers, you want to wrap the end of your yarn like an X and just secure it at the back with your little pinky. Put your hook under the X and grab the yarn. Pull up a loop, and then over top, grab the yarn and pull through that loop. Okay? And then go ahead and chain 2. So we're going to work 12 double crochet stitches into this magic ring. And if you work over top of this tail, it'll help to secure your work. So to double crochet, we yarn over, we go into the magic ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And we're going to go ahead and do 12 of those, all in the magic ring. And then what you want to do is pull on this tail, and that shrinks your ring up nice and tight so you get a nice solid middle. And that first 2 chain stitch does not count as a stitch. That was just to get the height on your work. So you want to close your circle into the top of your first double crochet stitch. So not this chain, right into that stitch. You just want to slip stitch to close the loop. Pull that tail, snugs right up the middle. Okay, and then we're going to chain 2 again. Again, this does not count as a stitch, just to get the height of the double crochet. And then you're going to do 2 double crochets in each stitch around, so you have 24 stitches. Yarn over, into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to do a second double crochet in that same stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 2 in 1 stitch. You're going to continue all the way around until you have a total of 24 double crochets. By doing 2 in each stitch, you should have a nice flat circle. Your work will not curl up on itself, even if it starts to look like it's going to. It will be a flat circle at the end. But when you get to the end of your round, just take note that this this stitch here, where you started your chain, is not actually a stitch. It was not the last double crochet of the first round. So if you count all the way around, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 stitches. And then you're just going to join, not with the chain again, with the first double crochet stitch. So you'll slip stitch into that top of that first stitch to join the round. You have this beautiful, nice circle, which is the middle of your snowflake. So again, to start, we're going to chain 2. Does not count as a stitch, just gets the height up to the double crochet. So because we have 24 stitches, what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 double crochets, and then in the 4th stitch, we're going to do a double crochet, 2 chains, and a double crochet all into that 4th stitch, and continue that all the way around. And so yarn over into the 1st stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's our first. We continue, that's our 2nd double crochet in the 2nd stitch, our 3rd double crochet in the 3rd stitch. And now in this 4th stitch here, we're going to do 1 double crochet, and then we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to double crochet into that same stitch. And that will be the start of our first, point to the snowflake. So you get this little gap that we'll work into in the next round. So continue on and do 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And then in the next stitch, the 4th stitch, again we're going to do 1 double crochet, and then we're going to chain 2 to make that nice gap, and then we're going to do a 2nd double crochet in that same stitch. And we're going to continue that for this round. Double crochet 1 in the next 3, and as we come around to the end, the very last one is going to be slightly different. So we've done our 3 since the last corner. We've done 1, 2, 3, and we have 1 stitch left. So that's just going to have 1 double crochet in it, and then we're going to do the chain 2, but we're not going to do the 2nd double crochet. We're actually going to connect here, and that's going to leave that last gap. So we're going to do a slip stitch into the 1st stitch of the round after our chain 2, and that provides that last gap. So you should have 6 little gaps, kind of makes a little hexagon shape. And now we're going to start making the final round, which is going to make the actual little snowflakes. So chain 1, and now we're just going to do single crochets, and we're going to do single crochets in the top of the first 4 stitches. You'll notice we never turn our work, we're always working the same direction in the round. That's 2, that's 3, that's 4 single crochets, and now we're at the first gap. So for the snowflake, we're going to do 1 single crochet, we're going to chain 6, we're going to connect our chain to make sort of a picot stitch, a half double crochet, a double crochet, 3 more little picot stitches, connect them back, and work down the other side. So this would be a repeating pattern. It's just a lot of steps to remember and changes of stitches. So I'll go slow and follow with me. So in this gap, we're going to do a single crochet. Then we're going to chain 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you want to slip stitch and connect this chain back to the very first chain of the chain. So your hook goes into that first chain, yarn over, pull through that loop, and pull through the loop on your hook. And that's your first little piece to the snowflake. Then a half double crochet into that same gap. So yarn over, through the gap, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And then a double crochet into the same gap. So yarn over, into the gap, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. Now you're going to chain 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're going to slip stitch not into the 6th chain from the hook, but into the 5th chain. We're going to leave that 6th one for a connection after this little 3-prong part. So into the 5th one, hook goes in, yarn over, pull the yarn through, and pull the yarn through the loop on your hook. Now we chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And in the 5th chain, or the first chain you made, the 5th chain from your hook, you will slip stitch back in. So yarn through and through the loop on your hook. See, you've got 2 of the little picots, or whatever you want to call them. Chain 5 again. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And slip stitch into the 5th chain from the hook. Pull through the loop on your hook, so you now have 3 of those little stitches. And now we're going to slip stitch back into that very first chain when we did 6 at the beginning. So we pull the yarn through there and pull the yarn through our hook. So we now have this lovely, almost clover looking end piece. Okay, and then back down the other side, same as we came up. So double crochet into that gap. We're still working into that gap space. And then a half double crochet into the gap. So yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through all 3 on your hook. Now we need to make this piece again on the other side. So we're going to chain 6 again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to slip stitch into the first chain or the 6th chain from your hook. Pull through the loop on your hook. You've created that other side of that, and now we're going to connect back into the gaps with a single crochet, and that's the last stitch in that gap. That is our first piece or prong or end of our snowflake. So to continue on, we're going to do just single crochets in each of the 4 stitches across again until we get to that next gap and follow that same pattern that we've just completed. So 4 single crochets in each of these stitches, and then you reach this second gap. And so we'll go through this exercise again. So 1 single crochet into the gap, okay, chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and slip stitch into the first or the 6th chain from the hook to create that first part. So you can see it's going to be this one again. Okay, half double crochet. So yarn over into the gap, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and then a double crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then to make the top, we will start with a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to slip stitch not in the 6th from the hook, but in the 5th chain from the hook. Slip stitch that together. Chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and slip stitch into the 5th chain from the hook. 1 more chain of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch in the 5th chain from the hook, and slip stitch back in the very first chain that we did when we did our first chain of 6 at the top of your double crochet. And that closes that little clover piece. If you forget to do that last slip stitch, you'll have a big gap in the middle of your snowflake prong or whatever we want to call it. So now double crochet back into this gap, and then a half double crochet into the same gap, and our last piece is this other side of this piece. So we chain 6 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Slip stitch in the first chain or the 6th chain from your hook, and finally a single crochet into that same gap to finish that next one off. So now you have 2 out of the 6 that you'll have at the end. Okay, continue around in that same pattern. So single crochets into the next 4 stitches. And then we'll walk through that pattern again. Okay, so in the gap stitch, single crochet 1, chain 6, slip stitch in the 6th chain from your hook, half double crochet, and then a double crochet, all working in this same gap. Okay, chain 6, and slip stitch into the 5th chain from your hook, not the 6th, and then chain 5, and slip stitch into the 5th chain from your hook, and chain 5, and slip stitch into the 5th chain from your hook, and then slip stitch again in the original chain on the top of your double crochet to complete that cluster, and then double crochet back into the gap, half double crochet into the gap space, chain 6 again, and slip stitch into the 6th chain from the hook, and single crochet into the gap for the last stitch of that cluster. Okay, you now have 3 of your 6. Okay, single crochet into the next 4 stitches, okay, and you reach your next gap. So again, we start 1 single crochet, chain 6, and slip stitch into the 6th chain from your hook, half double crochet into the gap, and double crochet into the gap, and chain 6. Slip stitch not into the 6th but into the 5th chain from the hook, and chain 5, slip stitch into the 5th chain from the hook, and chain 5, and slip stitch into the 5th chain from the hook, and then slip stitch back in your original chain before your 3 cluster stitches to combine and give you that lovely little cluster of 3. And then we work back into this gap again, double crochet, and half double crochet into the gap, and then chain 6, and slip stitch into the 6th chain from your hook, and single crochet back into the gap to complete that cluster. Now we have 4. So continue on, complete the last 2, and I'll meet you back here where we'll connect and finish off our work. Okay, so I've just finished going all the way around, finished all 6 of my clusters to create the snowflake. So when you get to the end, all you're doing after that last single crochet that you just did in this gap is just a slip stitch right into this first single crochet. And you can go ahead and trim your yarn off, pull through the last stitch to join, and of course weave in your ends. You end up with these beautiful snowflakes. I'm doing mine this year in a set of 4 coasters I'm giving away to people because I think they just look so beautiful sitting, especially on this gorgeous wood table. But you could also, you know, add a ribbon or add a hook and do them as ornaments. They're, you know, the size of my palm. They're not too huge. And also it's going to depend on which yarn, which hook you use. I used quite a thin yarn. It's I don't even think it's a 4. I think it's a smaller weight than a 4, and I used a 4.5mm hook. Obviously, if you use a weighted yarn of 4 and say a 5mm crochet hook, it's going to be slightly bigger. If you do use a thicker yarn and stick with the smaller hook, you might have like sort of a tighter stitch, and it won't get much bigger. It'll just be maybe a bit thicker feel to it and less airy. But there you go, snowflakes for Christmas. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hope to see you again in some of my other videos. Thanks. Bye.